everyone, my name is Hope and welcome back to my channel. I like musicals, they're all part of my life, and today I'm giving you a weird and wacky recap of Wicked. Now, the Wicked movie has just come out. We're all very excited about it. So I thought I would introduce people to the OG lore of what is Wicked the musical. Now, Wicked the movie is set in two parts, and the first movie is the first act of the show, ending with Defying Gravity. And the second half will be the second movie. If you're interested, I've also done this on Les Mis on Sweeney Todd. So if that sounds like it interesting to you, you can also watch those up there somewhere. And before we get into this video, remember that you can like, comment, subscribe, and follow me at all my social medias, which is XOWilsonX on Instagram and HopeWilson45 on Twitter and TikTok. But I'm not going to sit here and dawdle. We're just going to get straight into it and we're going to have a lot of fun. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Also, if I look like a mess, I'm sorry. It's been snowing and I've been up since 7 a.m. And if you're wondering why I look like I'm in a room which looks like a prison, I'm not in a prison. I'm just at my university practice rooms because I actually think the lighting is better in here than it is in my own flat. So don't judge me, don't judge me for that. But anyway, let's just get into the plot. So, Wicked opens. Overture, lovely. We love that overture. One of my personal faves. And it opens in theoretically the present day, because the majority of the show takes place in the past as like a flashback, but we're in the present day and the Wicked Witch of the West is announced to be dead. FYI, the Wicked Witch of the West is Elphaba. She's dead. And Glinda comes in because Glinda is the good witch. She is loved by everyone loves her, and she comes in on her bubble. And all of the Ozians, because yes, that's what they're called because it's set in Oz, are asking Glinda about Elphaba. So what Glinda does is she gives us a little bit of backstory, basically explaining how Elphaba came to be and why she's green, because Elphaba's green. And essentially what happened is Elphaba's father is like the governor of Munchkinland, I'm pretty sure, and he goes away on business. And her mother has a hashtag affair. Crazy times, I know. But she has an affair with this mysterious man who you never see the face of, who gives her this green liquid. And she drinks the green liquid and sleeps with this man and becomes pregnant. And when Elphaba is born, she's green because of the green liquid. Elphaba's father, the governor, disowns her and is like, she's cursed for life because she is green. Now, they never make it clear whether he's aware that her mother's had an affair, but at the same time, it's not overly important because she calls the governor dad and he raises her, so he's her dad, right? But that is how Elphaba came to be and why she's so hated, even by her own father. And then the Ozians basically question Glinda further and they're like, you knew her, right? And she's like, yeah, I knew her at school. Flashback. Title card, Wicked. We're now in the thick of the story. So we are at Shiz University because we're in Shiz, which is an area of Oz. Glinda and Elphaba are both there. Now, Glinda is your classic popular girl. She's pretty, she's popular, she's not really that nice. She's kind of like a bit of a bully, but everybody freaking loves her. Elphaba, on the other hand, not so much. So the reason Elphaba's at university is because her sister, Nessa Rose, is going to university. And Nessa is the younger sister of Elphaba, born to the governor and her mother, so they're theoretically half-sisters. But essentially there were some complications during childbirth where the mother died and Nessa Rose became disabled and in a wheelchair. And Elphaba comes to Shiz to help take care of Nessa as she has done her whole life. Now, Glinda obviously doesn't like Elphaba from the get-go, as does most people, because everyone loves Glinda and they hate her. So what a surprise there. But one person that doesn't hate Elphaba is Madame Morrible. Now, Madame Morrible is the head mistress of Shiz University, and she goes up to Nessa and Elphaba because they're the children of the governor, so they're kind of important. But not everything goes to plan. So Madame Morrible basically says that Nessa Rose can stay with Madame Morrible instead of staying with Elphaba. Now, no one ever brings up this is kind of weird and creepy. Like, imagine living with a teacher. I'm just saying. But they don't seem to have a problem with it. So Nessa Rose is going to live with Madame Morrible and she will take care of her. But Elphaba freaks out because she's taken care of Nessa her whole life. So as Madame Morrible is taking Nessa away, consensually, I feel like I have to say that, Elphaba uses her magic powers, which she doesn't yet have control of, to bring Nessa back to her. And this is like music to Madame Morrible's ear, because Madame Morrible is like kind of magical, and she basically decides to take Elphaba under her wing and say, I'm going to teach you private lessons in sorcery and you're going to get to meet the wizard. That's what she says. Meanwhile, Glinda has been trying to get the attention of Madame Marble. She wants to do these sorcery classes, and Madame Marble is like, no, because she's not overly magical. She's just rich and uptight, and that's about it. But as Elphaba doesn't have anyone to live with anymore because she was going to live with Nessa, she needs a roommate. Now, Glinda's friends persuade Glinda, whose name is Galinda Upland of the Uplands at this point, to go back over to Madame Marble and convince her to join the class. However, in doing that, she accidentally volunteers herself to live with Elphaba. Now, as you can tell, these two are pretty contrasting human beings, and they automatically don't get along, which is how we get into What Is This Feeling? Because it's just a song about the two of them hating each other and not getting along. And there's not really much more I have to say on that scene other than they hate each other, full stop. Fast forward after What Is This Feeling? We get a history class. Now, the history class is taught by Dr. Dillamond, who is a doctor, but also a goat. Now, in the musical, it is a goat man, because obviously real goats don't talk. And I always thought that Dr. Dillamond was supposed to be like part goat, part man. But in the movie, he's just a goat. It's just a goat that can talk. So I guess he's a goat. Let's put it that way. And this is just kind of an aside, but I think it's really interesting the actors that they picked to play certain roles. Because obviously, Cynthia Erivo, love her, is a black woman, and she is ostracized from it's not explicitly a white community, but that's definitely the theme, is the undertone. Like, Elphaba's green, and so she's different from everyone else. And it's the same. Peter Dinklage obviously has dwarfism, and so is also ostracized from a community because Dr. Dillamond is like bullied by students for being a goat. Everyone's like, stop being a goat. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's definite undertones that they've like slid in, which are very prevalent when you actually think about them. But anyway, Dr. Dillamond is being like bullied by students because they're all like, go back to the farm and whatever. They don't say that, but that is the general consensus of what they're saying. And Dr. Dillamond teaches history, and basically after finding like a hate note, like someone's literally written a hate note on the chalkboard, he ends the class. But Elphaba goes over to him because obviously she gets it. She's pretty hated on too. And it's basically like, if I ever meet the wizard, I'm going to go to him and I'm going to tell him all about what is essentially racism within Oz. Like that's what it is. And so she's like, I'm gonna tell them. And they both go on their merry way. Oh, also, Dr. Dillamond is basically finding out that they want like the goat people and other animal people, because he's the only animal professor at Chase University, that they're trying to get them to stop talking and just become like regular animals, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. But that's the end of the scene. Going on, we are in like the courtyard of Shiz University, and I kid you not, in the musical, Fiyero, who is some kind of really rich prince-like dude, comes in on a person-drawn carriage, which is insane. But he comes in and he is shallow, like he's not likable. He's very charismatic, but in like the worst way. Like, he doesn't give a damn about anybody else. Like, he thinks he's the best. Like, he's been expelled from schools because he doesn't show up, and he's a really terrible student and also just a generally terrible person. But he shows up and he sees Glinda and he's like, you are fit and I like you. That's his mind made up. You know, she's really popular, and he is like, well, obviously I'm going to be popular too because I'm Fiyero. So he introduces herself to her. Now, she definitely fancies him more than he fancies her, because he's kind of a player. That's the thing. He is a player, and Glinda is like living her best life with this really hot dude. And he's like, let's party, you know? He's like, let's have a party. So they go to the Oz Dust Ballroom, which is basically it's the Oz Club. That's what it is. But everyone wears really slay outfits. And he invites her to go to that. Now, at the same time, like during this, Bok comes on. Now, Bok is a munchkin. He also goes to Shiz University. And he is in love with Glinda, or Galinda at this point. Like, he's in love with her. He wants to take her to the dance. So he goes up to her and he asks her and goes, hey, Glinda, do you want to go to the dance with me? And Glinda's too nice to just outright say no. So she persuades him to take Nessa Rose. She's like, you know what would make me happier than you taking me? You taking Nessa Rose. And obviously Bok wants to do anything that he possibly can to impress her. So of course he asks her. Now the only issue with this is that Nessa Rose really likes Bok. So we get into this really awkward love triangle of the fact that Nessa Rose likes Bok, but Bok likes Glinda. That's where we're at with this. And everyone kind of goes on their merry way, getting ready for this party. Also, I want to say Wicked is one of the best foreshadowing musicals I think I've ever seen. Like in Dancing Through Life, which is the song that we're kind of talking about. Fiyero says, life's more painless for the brainless. And if you know what happens later on, you'll know why that is really good foreshadowing. And just generally with all the characters that have something happen to them later on in the show, like the foreshadowing, the lyrical genius, on point, absolutely on point. But we're moving on. We're back in the dorm room with Glinda and Elphaba. Now, Glinda has been given this really ugly hat by her aunt, I think. And I say it's really ugly. It's actually not ugly at all. It's just not a pink hat. It's essentially like the OG witch's hat. Like, think of a witch's hat, that's what it is. And everyone's like, oh my god, this hat is so ugly. So she decides she's going to give it to Elphaba. She's like, have this hat. It's black is the new pink. Do you know what I mean? And so Elphaba's kind of like, okay, whatevs, and takes the hat. This is, I'm 99% sure, where Glinda also sings Popular. Because basically Glinda's like, I need to give you a makeover. You should come to this dance, even though Elphaba's like, please, no, I don't want to go. She's like, please come. Not with me, but just come, generally. I'll give you a makeover. There's very little makeover to be had. I think all that happens is she takes off her glasses and puts her hair into a front plait instead of a back plait. Oh no, she takes her hair out. She takes her hair out of the plait down. And that's the whole makeover. It's like those like 90s rom-coms where the girl has braces and an ugly outfit, and then they take the braces off and change her outfit, and suddenly she's like this new woman, even though she looks exactly the same and she was attractive from the get-go. But she sings that and Elphaba leaves and is like not really content with the vibes, but she thinks about going, and Glinda goes off to the ball. Now, Elphaba sees Nessa Rose, and Nessa is like, oh my god, I'm going to this dance with Bok and everything's great, and Glinda told him to take me, and because she's just so nice. And because of that, Elphaba's like, oh well, Glinda's done a nice thing for me, so I'll do a nice thing for her. And she goes to Madame Horrible and is like, let Glinda do the sorcery class with me because she did this nice thing for my sister. I just thought I'd mention that because that is actually how Glinda became a witch, so it is kind of important info. But anyway, fast forward, we're at the Ozdus Ballroom. Fiyero is there and Glinda is smitten. She loves him. Bok is there pining after Glinda, and Nessa is also there being kind of avoided. Now it's so awkward. But obviously Glinda had no intention of being near Bok or with Bok. And because of that, Bok just spends the entire night pining over Glinda and ignoring Nessa Rose. And Nessa goes over to him and is like, you invited me because I'm in the chair, right? And he obviously is like, you can't say yes to that. Like, that's wrong. Like, because he knows that's wrong and like a really bad thing that he shouldn't have done. He lies to her and says, no, it's because you're really beautiful. And she's like, oh my god, because she likes him and she thinks he likes her back and he doesn't. And it's actually the most, I think, painful bit of the whole show, because they play it off like a really nice thing, but you're sat there like, but you don't like her, man. Like, you don't. And it sets up a whirlwind of things further down the line. Like, if talking of butterfly effects, this is a butterfly effect. But, like, it's his own actions have promptly kind of ruined his life. So, just don't have crushes on people and maybe your life will work out a bit better. So, we're at the ball and Elphaba arrives wearing the hat. And obviously, she gets made fun of for wearing the hat because apparently it's a really ugly hat. Actually, I think it's a really nice hat, but obviously, clearly other people do not. But weirdly, Glinda feels bad. She feels guilty for doing this and so decides to dance with Elphaba. And so everyone then joins in because Glinda's cool and everyone listens to her. And the two bond for the first time in the show. Oh my God, people can like each other. Who would have thought? And I actually realized I got it the wrong way around. Popular and like that stuff, that happens after this. But really, it's not that important. It's the same thing. We get it. We understand it. Moving on. Now, here's where it gets #crazy. Dr. Dillamond comes in. It's literally the next day. So times are really anti-progressive in Oz. And it's Dr. Dillamond has basically said, I'm leaving Shiz. I'm leaving the school because I'm not allowed to teach anymore. They have banned him from teaching because apparently some animals have been like aggressive and dangerous. So because he's also an animal, he's also aggressive and dangerous, which I want to iterate is obviously not true. And again, I think speaks volumes about the world that we live in today. And so Dr. Dillamond leaves and these human professors come in. I know, I can't believe it. Humans? What is that? And they basically showed this thing called the cage. And the cage is this contraption that stops animals from speaking. And everyone's just kind of fine with this, except from Elphaba. Rightly so, because that is messed up beyond a doubt. She obviously has a problem with that because what the hell? And there's basically like a lion cub in it, and Elphaba freaks out and kind of does her witchy stuff and takes the lion cub and like flees. And do you want to know who goes with her? Fiyero. They have met. I kind of forgot to say that they've met 'cause I kind of forgot myself, but they met. And honestly, even though he's a douche, like he actually cares about animals. So that's a positive. And the two of them leave together. They have a little private moment and Elphaba basically feels like Fiyero could never love her as much as he loves Glinda because she's like everyone's like dream girl and Elphaba is not. Because he goes off with Glinda and they're like having a fun time. But in reality, he actually likes Elphaba more because Glinda likes Fiyero, but Fiyero doesn't really like Glinda. But, you know, for appearances, he pretends that he does. But he actually likes Elphaba more. And Elphaba sings I'm Not That Girl because she doesn't think that anyone could ever love her because she's never been loved. And I think that's really sad. Also, you know, when they ask, sometimes they ask different Elphabas, like, what song Elphaba would yours be? Is it like a No Good Deed, Define Gravity? I'm Not That Girl Elphaba. And I think I will stand by that. But it's later, like she sang her song and she sees Madame Morrible again. And Madame Morrible has basically said, the wizard wants to meet you. Like he's up for meeting you and your magical powers. And so Glinda, Fiyero, Boq and Nessa Rose say goodbye to her at the train station and like a little wave her off because she goes to the Emerald City to go and meet the wizard. But basically, as Fiyero's waving her off because he's clearly more interested in Elphaba than he is in Glinda. And Glinda, in order to try and like get some attention, basically says, in solidarity for Dr. Dillamond's firing, I'm taking the A out of my name, Galinda, to make it Glinda, because that's how Dr. Dillamond pronounced it. And Fiyero does not give a flying fuck. He doesn't care whatsoever. He is more interested in Elphaba. And Glinda is pretty dejected by this. So Elphaba invites her along to the Emerald City. So they go on a little girls trip to the Emerald City. They have a little one short day moment. They go on a little tourist trip to the Emerald City looking around, and everybody's in green in the Emerald City because it's the Emerald City. And they go and meet the wizard. Now, the wizard, instead of being this like scary dude, because he has like a scary mask face, which I'm sure you've seen in the trailer because it's really spooky, he is actually a really nice man who sings a sentimental man, which is a boring song. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably one of my least favorite songs in the show. I couldn't tell you how it goes even with a tune, and I've seen the show twice. And Elphaba like tells him about all the stuff that's been going on, and he's like, I'll grant your request if you prove yourself to me. And Elphaba's like, okay, can do that, my friend. But you know who shows up at the end? Madame Morrible, who is now the wizard's new secretary. I think she's his press secretary. So like she's doing all the chatting and the public relations and everything. You know, she's got them connections. And she gives Elphaba the Grimoire, which is essentially just a book of spells. It's just the fancy word for a book of spells that only people who are magical can read. And essentially, Elphaba is asked to do a levitation spell on a monkey, one of the many monkeys in this part of Oz. I don't really know why there's so many monkeys monkeys, but there are. She's asked to perform this levitation spell on the monkey, which kind of weird, but okay. And she does, but it goes wrong because she doesn't really know what she's reading. She was just told to read what she thought was a levitation spell, but actually caused the monkey to sprout wings and become a flying monkey, which is how the flying monkeys in Wicked started. From doing this, which is obviously animal cruelty, and Elphaba's very anti-animal cruelty, as most people should be, she realizes that the wizard is actually part of the animal containing scheme. Like, he's doing it and he's a fraud because he's not actually the best man ever and the nicest man. No, he's evil. And well, he's not evil, but he's like pro animal cruelty and pro taking away animal rights. And, you know, Elphaba's not going to stand for that, and neither am I. It's this kind of idea that the wizard isn't actually magical at all. Like, he just pretends to stay in power because that's what's most important to him. And so Elphaba's like, damn, I got to tell everyone because this is messed up. It shouldn't be happening. And in order to stop that, Madame Morrible basically tells everyone that Elphaba is the wickedest witch ever. And because everyone talks to each other, everyone is like, yeah, Elphaba is an evil witch. Now, Glinda, who's actually there, I think people forget that she's there because it's not really about her. She goes and finds Elphaba and is like, apologise and just agree with it and like everything can go back to normal. And Elphaba's like, fuck no, like I'm not pro animal cruelty, I'm not doing that. Elphaba asks her to go with her to say, you know, come with me, like we can do this together. But Glinda's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to, but I can't. And Elphaba sings Defying Gravity and becomes this idea of the Wicked Witch, which she's not. And she flies away, far away. And that's the end of Act 1. Now, I didn't think that it was going to be like the best idea to make it like one movie is all of that. But like actually talking about it out loud, that is actually quite a lot of things to happen in a movie. But it's definitely not going to give it like a succinct end, especially because we have another year until the film comes out. The second film comes out, which is kind of crazy. But that is Act 1. That is the end of the movie. But I did just want to say one thing I find crazy about the movie is the first film is 2 hours and 40 minutes. The musical Wicked is 2 hours and 45 minutes. So they've made the whole of Act 1 almost the same length as the entire show. The entire show, which is crazy. I really want to see how they managed to do 2 hours and 40 minutes of just a lot of talking. I know they've added in new songs. I think there's one in each act. But I just really want to see. I want to see how they've managed to do it because that is some feat. But only time will tell. And I'm sure I'll bring out a review when I go and watch it at some point. I'm going to leave it there. There'll be a part 2. I was going to do it all in one video as I normally do. However, because I keep running out of storage, I'm concerned that I'm going to have to keep stopping and that's going to just make everybody's lives really difficult. So I'm going to stop it there. That is Act 1. That is actually the entirety of the Wicked movie, the first one, which is crazy, as I've been saying. But what do you think? What do you think of the Wicked movie? I really want to know. Especially because I haven't seen it as of making this video. But I'm excited, I'm interested, I want to know what's going on. And I want to know your thoughts. So, you can like this video if you liked it. Subscribe down below if you feel like it. Keep enjoying musicals as much as me. And I will see you in the next one. Or possibly the next part. Maybe it's just going to be like a Wicked month. Maybe that's how it's going to work. But, yeah, see you soon.